Every now and then, I think about 2020 and how, throughout those months of social isolation, we would see, is this our new normal? Pop on headlines and all over social media. It took less than 2 years for life to get pretty much back to what it was before the pandemic, for most people, anyway. When this all happened to you, did you feel like life was pulling the rug and things turned upside down for you?
Oh, yes. 100%.
That's the only way to describe it, that the rug got pulled from underneath our feet. Those exact words, from multiple people.
Yeah. We weren't thinking COVID back then. We were just like, this came out of nowhere.
I just knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what it was. The next day, I thought that things would be better or it would resolve, but it didn't. And it just stayed like that.
And I always say, like, that's the last day I like walked unassisted and without any kind of fear. I was like crushed because this thing doesn't have a cure. This isn't just something I'm going to get past because I was just waiting for it to end.
This thing is called POTS, Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia Syndrome. It's a type of dysautonomia, which is basically a malfunction of the autonomic nervous system, the one that takes care of everything involuntary in your body. And the number of cases has increased by at least 1 million as a result of COVID. I went to a cardiologist in January 2022, and he diagnosed me by giving me this post-it, saying, "Here's what you have, my dear." And when I asked what now, he said, "Just eat more salt. That's it." As if this is nothing. And I left feeling like, okay, what am I supposed to do now that my body doesn't seem to let me do anything? As frustrated as I was when I left the doctor's office, at least I found out what I had fairly quickly. I have this friend, Haley, and she had POTS prior to the pandemic. But her diagnosis journey took years.
So I was diagnosed with panic disorder in 2018, late 2018. I didn't get an official dysautonomia diagnosis until August of 2020. So I've been experiencing symptoms now for about 3 years. And the process to getting a diagnosis involved a lot of gaslighting from my medical providers. I sought multiple medical providers in the mental health route and, traditional medicine like physicians and whatnot. And they just kept telling me that I was anxious. Having an actual diagnosis when you have POTS or dysautonomia, it really is a privilege. Not a lot of people are able to get diagnosis, and that's why the amount of people that suffer worldwide is grossly underreported. When COVID happened, I very much felt that it was a silver lining for POTS and dysautonomia patients because now you had institutions like Harvard looking into POTS, looking into dysautonomia, trying to understand the etiology of it and what we could do to help patients.
Could you list your symptoms one by one, just a symptom without explaining anything for me?
Light sensitivity, noise sensitivity, insomnia, blood pressure fluctuations, gastric dumping, hypoglycemia, adrenaline rushes, tachycardia, fatigue, brain fog, Raynaud's. Not all of us develop the condition for the same reason. Not all of us present the same way. It's a syndrome.
Like I said, that was the last day I walked unassisted. No matter what's been done in terms of treatment, hydration, salt, medication, everything, nothing has really been able to get me to a point where I can stand and walk for more than a minute or two without immediately starting to pass out. I didn't have a wheelchair for the first like 2 months because I was just like waiting for it to get better, I guess. I don't even know at that point. I was like on the couch. And so I got to a point where I realized I'm like, in order to try to keep a little bit of what my life was before, my husband ordered me a wheelchair off Amazon for like 200 bucks. And I live with the perspective of a wheelchair user now, which is an entire new world. It's like a whole different lens because you don't really think about like the little things like using the sink. So I'm reaching in and I get like soaked. Like if I'm like chopping up vegetables or something like that, like it takes like 2 seconds for my arms to just be exhausted. And like having your arms up above your head, it causes the blood to pool and everything to freak out. So it's like I get like the lightheadedness and then brain fog. And he has to help me a lot more with a lot of things, basically. I love cooking. That's my favorite thing. In the beginning, I couldn't even sit up long enough to cook anything. Thankfully, as we've experimented different medications, we found a few medications I'm taking now that help me to where I can stay up in the chair all day. It wasn't any like solid plans, but I had dreams of like, oh, I could open my own business someday or maybe like do something with this because I love baking and everything. And that just went like right out the window, like the second because I'm like, we're just going to focus on trying to cook for just the two of us, like forget like actually making anything of it. It's yeah, it's everything in my life. It's affecting it every single second.
Prior to POTS, I worked two jobs, one of them as an analyst and one of them as a pharmacy technician on a daily basis, walking, running, exercising. I had traveled to Asia, to Europe. I had plans of, just do things, just go places and be able to take care of my parents. I'm the oldest. It's me and my younger sister. And after my dad, I feel like the responsibility falls onto me. That's a cultural thing, Greek families are very connected. We don't just go off on our own. My relationship with my parents, it's just gotten harder because they want to see me get better, and I don't feel like I am getting better. And in the beginning, they questioned whether did I do something, you know, that made this happen or how did this happen? I had to give up a position as an assistant director. The hospital that had interviewed and had plans of hiring me, they had waited from November of 2021 to March of 2022. They kept on waiting. I was the one that initiated the email that said, hey, I'm not seeming to get better. And it was a very important position to me because it was going to be for a very big healthcare network. I was 34, 35 years old, and now I'm going to be 38. I want so badly to go back to work. I don't want to be home in this room, the same four walls, and having, only the energy to turn on the TV for a little while. It's just very different, very different. We go back to the it's the opposite of what I was before.
Ready?
I'm a hyper person. I was always moving and moving fast. I'm autistic and ADHD, so I struggle with sensory processing and executive functioning. And because of the dysautonomia, I became much more sensitive to sensory stimuli, especially sounds and light. But I didn't know how to self regulate because I've always done it through movement and music, and both of those things were now a problem. The tasks I had to add to my daily routine to try to keep my symptoms under control, even with help, felt like a full time job. Hydration, salt, eating small meals every 3 hours, wearing compression garments, getting up and sitting down slowly and carefully, can't get angry, can't get excited, can't have a good laugh, having to be working from bed or the couch most of the time and not being able sometimes to even sit up for many days at a time. I went through a really hard time trying to slow down and accept this new normal of mine, but what bothered me the most wasn't even the fact that my life seemed to be falling apart, it was being dismissed. As of now, I'm actually doing better than I was 2 years ago, but I still had to change my goals, my life plans. And often I still need to change my daily plans, even those no one really puts thought into, like taking a shower.
Do I really want to waste a day, what I could potentially do in one day by showering?
Sometimes I am washing dishes, like cleaning the kitchen, the pressure in here,
Hmm.
right? And then that's it. If you have something else that you were planning on doing after, oh, excuse me, you're not going to.
There is a grieving process that we go through that no one but those really close to us might notice. And I think that's why I wanted to make this documentary. Most people, including medical providers, don't understand the impact that being hit with a chronic illness such as long COVID and dysautonomia can have in a person's life. And I believe it's because they can't see it. The illness is not visible, the disability is not visible. That is no excuse, however, to have our symptoms, our needs, our feelings minimized and dismissed by medical providers, by friends, and even by family. So trust us when we say that it feels like our lives got turned upside down because they did.
What do you wish would be different? I don't necessarily wish that I could go back and make this never happen, but I do wish that I could like pick up and continue with like the plans I had with life. You know what I mean? I wish that it was stable enough and predictable enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Reagan on that. The future plans are impossible. You're living on a day-to-day basis. On some days, it's just minute by minute.